And finally, the last video in this series is all about the moon, and again we have 10 facts. Number 1, it is about 4.6 billion years old, like our Earth, and it was born when a Mars-sized rock named Theia crashed into our Earth. The debris from the collision clumped together to make what is now our moon. And our moon is made of rock, just like our Earth, but it's only about a quarter of the size of Earth. And the Apollo missions that landed on the moon brought back about 2,196 rock samples. So here's an astronaut collecting one there. Number 2, the moon's surface is home to mountains, huge craters from meteors crashing into it, and flat plains called seas. It also has about 2 inches of dust on its surface. The dust probably falls from space, and it also comes from the crashes. There's a huge mountain called Mons Huygens, which is about half the height of Mount Everest on the moon. There is much less gravity on the moon. You weigh much less. If you weighed 100 kilograms on Earth, you'd only weigh about 17 kilograms on the moon. Maybe I should move to the moon and I'd lose some weight. You could also jump 6 times higher or 6 times further. Although the moon shines bright in the sky, it doesn't produce its own light. We see the moon because it reflects light from the sun like a mirror. The moon appears to change shape in the sky, but it isn't really changing, of course. It's the amount of moon in sunlight that changes as it travels around our Earth. These changes are called the moon phases, and you can see that the moon appears to be growing until it's full and then shrinking until we can't see it. Number 6, because the moon has no atmosphere, it can get very hot and very cold. When the sun is shining on it, the moon can reach about 100 degrees Celsius. That's like really, really hot. When it's dark, the temperature can drop to way below freezing, even right down to minus 170 degrees Celsius. Also, because it has no atmosphere, it has no weather, it has no wind to erode the footprints. So the footprints that were left on the surface of the moon from the Apollo astronauts, it's just going to stay there forever, up to at least 10 million years. Number 7, the moon orbits the Earth once every 29 days. Well, it's actually 27.5, but by the time it catches up to the Earth's rotation, we say about 29 days. But it's also spinning the same time, but it spins very, very slowly. The moon only spins once, or rotates once, as it travels all the way around the Earth. So it rotates once every revolution. This is why we only ever see the same side of the moon. The dark side of the moon is a myth. It gets heaps of sunlight, we just don't get to see it. Okay, so this astronaut is standing on the side of the moon, and no matter whereabouts it is, the astronaut is always facing the Earth because of that one rotation. The moon creates the Earth's tides. On the side of the Earth that is closest to the moon, the moon's gravity will pull the water of the oceans up slightly, resulting in a high tide. And inertia causes the water on the other side to go into high tide as well. And on the top and the bottom, opposites, they will be having their low tide. We have 2 high tides and 2 low tides every 24 hours. The first spacecraft to reach the moon was called Luna 1, and that was in 1959. That was actually a Russian spacecraft, because the Russians were leading the space race. It passed within 6,000 kilometers of the surface of the moon, didn't land there before it went off into orbit around the sun. They were also the first to land the first, I'll rewind that sentence. Russia were also first to land an unmanned spacecraft way back in 1966. So they landed on the moon, but there was nobody in it. NASA was desperate to get into the space race, so they were the first to land on the moon with the astronauts, of course. Shh. I'm videoing. You have to be quiet. Okay? Hang on. Yes, so you probably just guessed one of my kids just walked in. So I'll just keep going. Number 10, the moon has actually been walked on by only 12 people. The first man to set foot on the moon was Neil Armstrong in 1969, the first Apollo landing. The last man to walk on the moon was in 1972, and that was Gene Cernan on the Apollo 17 mission. And since then, the moon has only been visited by unmanned vehicles, so like moon buggies and things like that. NASA wants to build a permanent space station on the moon, so astronauts could be returning to the moon very, very soon. Okay, bye!